Welcome to A Dose of Feeling. I'm Mushka, just a real human navigating the beautiful chaos of life. This podcast is about keeping it real, sharing my highs, lows, and the lessons that shaped me. It's a mix of stories, inspiration, and honest conversations, like chatting with a friend who just gets it. So get comfy and let's dive into this journey together. Let's feel it all. Hello, I am so glad you are here. Welcome back. I hope that wherever you're listening finds you in a beautiful space. And yeah, I'm going to dive right in today because this conversation was inspired by an encounter that I had the other day. I was in the supermarket. I had a couple things I needed to do and then I wanted to run back home. And I passed by someone that I don't really know well, but there was something in me that was like, just say hi. Who knows where that's going to go? And I went up to her and I said, "Hey, how are you? It's good to see you." And she was so happy to see me. She was also pretty talkative. She's like, "How are you? Where have you been? And what's going on?" And I told her we just came back from somewhere and, I'm just trying to get my house back in order. And I kind of shared, I'm like, it's been so hard with the kids and I'm just trying to create a structure again. And she leaned in kind of close and she's like, "Mushka, I am so burnt out." And I was like a little taken back because I love when people are vulnerable and when people open up to me. I just don't always expect it. And I was like, wow, thank you. I really relate to that. And I am also feeling extremely burnt out. And I told her, you have permission to take care of yourself. And she didn't know what that was like. She didn't know what it was like to take a break. She didn't know what it felt like to do something for herself. And she was there with a whole bunch of kids. And she said, "I don't think I've ever taken a break from my kids." And I said, "What do you mean? Like during the day?" "No, I'm always with my kids." And she said, "I just have no energy. I have nothing left, not for my kids, not for me." And we got into it was like kind of a short discussion, but I told her, you need this in order to show up as a better mom, as a better partner, as a better person for yourself, emotionally, mentally. You need to find what it means to reset and do something about this burnout and this lack of energy. Because there's no way that you can be a healthy mother and a healthy partner, healthy person, if you haven't done that. And I said, "Please think about it." And I could see like a weight lifted off her shoulder. I could see how long she has been waiting to turn to someone and say, "I can't do this. This is so hard for me." And so that inspired this conversation. And also it reminded me of how many interactions like this I have come in contact with. How many people who tell me they are just up to here with the burnout and the mental load and the energy that it takes to uphold a life of a home, a relationship, children, motherhood. And if you're listening right now and you're not a mom and you're saying, "I don't really relate to that burnout," I want you to think about the societal expectations that push women. And men have their own thing, but I'm talking about the women to do it all. This invisible work of managing, regardless of children, let's say just the household, your schedule, the support, the emotional support. We have to do so much to keep things going, but also at the same time, balance our emotions, balance our hormones, balance our cycles, which every week is something different within in a 1 month period. Balance our relationships, to express our creativity, to step more into our flow, into our feminine, into our soft side. But no, you also have to be doing XYZ at 100%. And I find that when it comes to the mom piece, it really amps up because you have to also think about managing the household in terms of the kids and the schedules and them and their needs. And that never ends. From the time you wake up with them to the time they go to sleep, their demands are nonstop. And then when they're asleep, you're thinking about them and all their needs for the future. And so it's really important to pay attention to where we are expected to do so much in all areas of our life. And I'm going to share for myself. I realized, this is probably a couple years ago, that my own burnout story, my moment, was when I stopped feeling like myself. And myself is, my baseline is generally gentle, patient, calm, kind, loving. And I want to be that way as a mom, as a partner. And so when I started snapping at my kids, I started feeling not well physically, carrying like what felt like extra physical weight on my body and the burden on my shoulders and the stress constantly in my head and the anxiety in my chest, trying to just keep it all together for my family and ignoring all of these things. Like, I wasn't a gentle, kind, loving mother. I was a snappy mom, impatient, who needed my home in check and my kids in check and everything in the line in order for me to feel good. But did I feel good? No. And I always believed that my priority was, once I'm a mom, it's taking care of my children and being in this motherhood role. What else is there? This is my life now. And I remember once I was on a hike with my husband and we were talking about who we are, what defines us. And I said, I'm a mom. And he said, okay, but what else? I said, that's me. And at the time I was working and I said, I'm a mom, a wife, a therapist. He said, okay, so Mushka is a mom. What is Mushka outside of these roles? I said, these are my roles. They are what defines me. And he said something really scary, and it was really hard for me to think in the moment. And I remember we were on a hike and I was crying. I was standing by this tree and I just sat down and I was crying. He said, what if you didn't have your kids anymore? And I was like, no, 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 I can't think that. I can't, because I'm a mom. These are my kids. This is my whole life. And I was just so torn. And it may be a really heavy thing to think. It is a really heavy thing. At the same time, it really put into perspective for me that, who am I? What am I outside of these roles? And it got me to look at what I deserve and what I am worthy of. And being a mom means that I can be a mom and be Mushka with all these other defining properties in my life. And so it really got me to start looking at, how can I take up space for myself outside of these individual roles? How can I take up space as Mushka, just a human being, just being me, with the things that I enjoy and the things that I want and the needs that I have? And I'm kind of getting a little carried away from the point of the burnout, but to tie it back was that taking up space for myself was not selfish. And I had thought that my husband got to travel, he got to go to places he wanted, pick up and leave, and know that I was the one who kept things in control and kept things pretty well structured, and we had a routine. And the moms that I speak to, for myself as well, that we can't just pick up and leave and trust that things will be okay, because so much of it does fall on us. when we are the sole caretakers, when we run the home, when we run our household. And although now I will say when I do leave, and thankfully I've taken up a lot of space for myself to be selfish in that aspect that I can go and leave and do something for myself and trust that my home will run smoothly and that my children will be okay and my husband will run the home to the best of his ability. So a lot of trust there. But I do the minimum. I organize the clothes for one of my kids, and the other kids I can trust that my husband will take care of them. I organize lunches for one day, but I can trust my husband will organize lunches for the next day, etc. And I do this because I want to help now and not necessarily because I need to and I don't trust. At the beginning, when I first learned to take time for myself and take space, I had a very hard time letting go of what was happening in the house. And so I would manage everything up until the second that I left, so that when I left, I knew everything was still running the way that I liked to run it. But now I can trust that my husband is extremely capable and can run it the way he likes to run it when he's in the house. So, what eventually changed was I started prioritizing myself. I realized that nobody wants me around when I'm a snappy, burnt out mom. And especially when my kids would say, when my husband would go away, they'd say, "Oh, I wish you were going away." Or now it's actually sometimes the other way around. But I realized that I wasn't conducive to the home when I was feeling this way. It was as if everyone and everything was pushing me out of the house to just go and take some time. It was like, Mushka, go be selfish for a second. And there is this guilt around, I'm a mom. How dare I leave my kids? This was the role that I chose, and this is the role that I stepped into. And I choose to commit 100%. At the same time, committing means that you are the best mom that you can be. It is just so, so rare. I've yet to seen a mom who doesn't need time for herself. And this could even mean, 2 hours a day to go and take a hike or one night away. It doesn't have to be a month-long vacation. It can be what feels right, that you've filled your cup. Once you've filled up your cup, you can then go back to your family and say, "Oh, I'm ready for you." And sometimes all I need to do is lock myself in my bedroom and say, "Wow, I've been with my kids the entire day. Sundays are hard. The weekends, really, coming out of the weekends are hard for me. Sundays, I come down and I'm like, wow, that was a lot of mom. And I just need a second to lock myself in my room and do nothing. Maybe stare out the window for 20 minutes and come back knowing that that's all I needed for today." So, going back to the societal guilt, the supermom myth that it glorifies being busy and productive and making us feel guilty for taking a second, for resting. We have to be perfect. We have to do all these things, mom, wife, professional. We're meant to do it all, but without burning out and breaking down. And I mean, you're seeing now, even in the workplace, they're having like mental health days. We're not meant to do it all until the very end. And so what we do is we think we are, and we internalize this guilt, and we keep pushing ourselves until we crash. And then when we crash, we're embarrassed to ask for help. And I know for myself, I have a hard time, and I'm really trying to move through this, asking for help. But when it comes to my family and my kids, I always felt like I couldn't ask for help because the entire duty falls on me as a mom. I signed up for this. So how dare I ask for help? And so we feel like we should handle it alone. And these things we think are a luxury, asking for help, whether it be babysitting help, cleaning help, your partner to come home early from work to help with a time that may be difficult for you, calling a neighbor, calling a friend, setting up play dates. We believe that these are luxuries, and some of them may be. At the same time, we've gotten so lost with what's a necessity. I think back to even those olden days where they had the village. They say it takes a village, because we literally were in villages where the entire village would band together when something difficult was happening or when a mom needed more help. And you have these communities still, and you have these villages in different places where they're all in it together. And so this meaning of it takes a village is that we literally need our village. And it's not a luxury to want to have your own village, or to say, I need help this afternoon. I need takeout. I need to call my partner and ask him to come home early tonight. Because these types of things make you a better mom, a partner, and a person. What I believe and what I have told myself over the years is that letting go of guilt, letting go of this myth, and taking back the power of yourself, the space for yourself, is reminding me that I deserve care too. And as much as we want to be the caregivers and the providers for our children and for our families, and it's my beautiful lifelong mission and goal. I love motherhood. I love being a mother and navigating this space. I've been doing it for 10.5 years, and it's the most beautiful journey. At the same time, I need to nurture myself and I need to care for myself too. So some things that have helped me is noticing when I can say no without apologizing. Just no, I can't do this right now. I can't give more of myself right now. When I can't do that, to delegate. My husband isn't a helper. He's not a babysitter. He's not just there for the fun of it. He is my children's parent, and I thankfully have him in my life to co-parent with me. And if you don't have a partner right now, or you're separated, there are other people out there who you can bring into your life to help you, to say, okay, maybe they aren't necessarily a co-parent right now, but they are helping me in the much needed space of parenting my children, because we aren't meant to do it alone. And also really teaching my kids that mom is allowed her space and mom is worthy of doing her own thing and taking care of herself, because eventually our children will grow up and will want to have these lessons and messages as well, and they need to see it happening when they're young. They need to see it from their parents that they have permission for these things. I even see in my children now, if something becomes too overwhelming, or if I can tell they're too burnt out, they'll go and take their space. So why shouldn't we do the same? I've also realized that perfectionism doesn't exist, and particularly letting go of perfectionism in motherhood, because doing it all is no longer my goal. Doing what truly matters to the best of my ability is enough. And that sometimes means that I can make peace with a messy kitchen, piles of laundry, my kids not having the perfect matching outfits, because what matters most is that we have a happy, gentle, loving home environment. And I sometimes have to prioritize that. So, what I want to share today is a message for any woman that is listening. If you are exhausted, it doesn't mean you are failing. It just means that you're working so hard and you deserve care. You have permission to take care of yourself, and your worth is not measured by how much you do. Your worth is never defined by your role. And you just deserve to live in peace. And that means emotionally, mentally, and physically to show up the best that you can. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we are all doing our best. And it feels like sometimes our best is not enough. And it feels like our best needs to be harder and more with more visible results. But nobody wants to live like that. And so I invite you to give yourself that permission to feel the gentleness that is possibly deep within. And I also invite you to feel what it's like to take space for yourself, maybe even plan that vacation you've been thinking about, because you deserve it. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful day.